I'm Kelly Bednar. I am the Education Director here at BPAA. We're happy to see all of you here in the room. This room keeps growing every year. We're glad to see it as the model keeps changing in the industry. I'd like to take a moment to introduce, I'd like to call him a good friend. We travel a lot around the country. He is a consultant with us here with our Bowling Center Management, and he helped coordinate and write our Entertainment Center Management School for us that we're running around crazily every year putting together. We've sold out the first 2 years of this program, and it is available again this September. We hope you'll be interested in joining us at that program. Rick has spent 30 years in the bowling industry in operations, training, and consulting roles. He has participated actively in developing 50 unique bowling centers worldwide in his career. He is a regular instructor with us at the Bowling Center Management School, and as I just mentioned, helped write the Entertainment Center Management School for us. For the last 7 years, Rick has advised owners and companies in all of the operations and F&B oriented from his business in Fort Worth. And recently, he's joined the ownership ranks with his partnership in Spare Time Lanes in Temple, Texas. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Rick Heim.
Golf clap, beautiful, thank you, perfect. Who's here has attended one of our 2 entertainment center management schools? Anybody? We've got a couple, okay. I was reluctant to do this presentation because it is a core piece of our entertainment school, and it's really my last presentation at the school, and I try to wrap things up for everybody and send them forth with marching orders. But Colin Kirchner, who's the head of the Education Training Committee, just pushed and pushed and pushed. When he saw this, he said, it's something that we've got to get into the Bowl Expo presentation lineup. So if you did attend the school, it's going to be a little bit of a redo for you, and that's never a bad thing for learning, right? We all know that, and we'll talk about learning during this presentation, and hopefully some items will be refreshers, and maybe even things that you forgot and said, oh yeah, that was a good idea, but didn't do it. And I hope you take away 1 or 2 ideas that you can implement immediately at your center. Who here is operating what they refer to as a bowling entertainment center, what I refer to as a bowling entertainment center? So bowling's an anchor and you've got entertainment there. So the rest, I'm going to make an assumption that you're considering moving into entertainment. I hope that's the case, and so it's a good place for you. If you're operating a traditional bowling center, you're going to get something good out of this too. I guarantee that you will do that. I probably shouldn't guarantee 100%, but I really do believe that you'll get something out that you can use. I want to tell you what this presentation is not before we get to what it is going to be about. It's not going to be about marketing an entertainment center. I could speak to that, and I could speak to it for days, but what we're going to talk about today is nuts and bolts. What do I do as an operator to run these very complicated businesses? And they are very complicated businesses. I share with you this, I think most of you know that at one time I was VP of Operations for Main Event Entertainment, one of the, the first movers in the bowling entertainment center world. And I had, one of our general managers was a GM of a Planet Hollywood in Dallas, Texas. That might not mean anything to you. It might mean something to you, Kip. It did $15 million in sales on an annual basis. He was the general manager of that. And he came to us as a general manager of a bowling entertainment center, and he shared with me after I was working with him for 6 months that the learning curve of this bowling entertainment center business was 2 years for him. 2 years before he felt comfortable doing it. Does that tell you how complicated it is? Because if you haven't run a restaurant that does $15 million, I will share with you it is extremely complicated to do that kind of business. But it speaks to the complications of running these entertainment centers. And we're going to try to give you some tips for making it less complicated and making you more efficient and effective at running it. Does that sound like a deal? All right, then I'm going to deliver that deal. I don't do podiums, by the way. I hope I'm not distracting to you, but it would be a lot more distracting if I was up at the podium and you were falling asleep. It would be distracting me. So bear with me as I move around. And I'll try to keep it active for you too. So we're going to talk about what I call 5 categories of best practices. And they might not be, and these are operating practices, they might not be what you would consider off the top of your head. Number 1 is going to be talent management. Number 2, communication techniques. Third is going to be guest experience management. Fourth is profitability levers. We are operators after all. We're responsible for the bottom line. And continuous improvement is going to be number 5. So let's start with number 1, talent management. And my sub headings here are selection, onboarding, and training. So number 1, here it is. One person cannot hire anybody. And I'm talking about best practices now. One person cannot hire anybody. Multiple staff required to bring staff members on board. Why do you think I would say that? Yeah, so 2 heads are better than 1, right? You get a broader perspective. You might see something that I don't see. Lisa, you might have a bias. I might have a bias. And the biases work both ways. They're positive and negative, too. If I'm interviewing somebody and they tell me they went to the University of Texas at Austin, I'm already chummy with them, right? If they went to Texas A&M, I'm like, well, I don't know if you're ever going to get a job here. That's just the way it is. So we all have biases like that. We avoid them when we bring more people into the selection process. I will tell you, I am tried and true believer in group interviewing. In this business, I believe group interviewing is the way to go. It puts people on stage. It involves more people in the selection process. And it puts them into positions that they're going to have on the job, So if you're doing role playing, you're going to see what they might look like in front of a guest versus you just asking them questions in an interview. It's all theoretical, right? And the best predictor of future behavior is present behavior and past behavior. So, hey, let's see how they behave, So that is, within a group interview, I can actually see how people are going to behave with guests and with team members. I can see things like teamwork, leadership, creativity, energy that you will never see in a one-on-one interview across a table from somebody. Do you buy that? If you haven't done it or considered it, I encourage you to do it. It's the best way to get staff that are going to have the hospitality skills and the courtesy skills that you're going to want in an entertainment center. And I could probably talk the rest of the hour and 15 minutes on that one topic, I can tell you that. Because who you bring into the organization is going to determine your quality of service, it's going to determine your profitability, and it's going to, it's a determining factor in your guest satisfaction. GM involvement in orientation. I'm a big believer in this. To me, this is, I'm the head person at this place, and I'm interested enough with a frontline person to sit down with you at orientation, and I'm going to share with you the company's mission, the values, our goals. And I can tell you, for a 17-year-old party host, that's a pretty big deal. If you're a general manager, you don't know how large you are in the eyes of a frontline staff person. You just don't. You're a big person in a community too, but that takes me into marketing and off on a tangent. But you're a big person to that individual, and when you're involved at the step of orientation, I'm telling you, they're going to bond to your values and missions better. You buy what I'm selling? I hope you do, because it's really, really important from the get-go that that associate knows the owner or the general manager thinks enough about me to show up at orientation. Anybody see Doug Lip's presentation yesterday? Was that not cool? Was that not good stuff? And you think about how, Disney is better than anybody at getting minimum wage employees acting like they're making $50,000 a year. How is that? Well, I can tell you one of the ways is by holding a phenomenal orientation, right? And right from the get-go, they're teaching them about, it's the university, you learn about traditions, you learn about all the characters. and Walt's vision for the company. It isn't BS. It really does matter. People want to connect to, people work for people, and people connect the company to that staff person. All training process documented. So, look, if you're handing down training by the oral tradition method, it's lost with the second person. Just understand, every time 50% of that oral tradition being passed down is going to be lost. So whatever it is that you train to, make sure that it's documented. And if you're like almost everybody, including myself, as an operator, I'm constantly having to document something new. We've got something that we add, a new piece of software, a new menu item, a new menu rollout. It's all got to be documented. And I know there's a few people in this room that think, this is like a mountaintop to me, and I have got a ton of work to do to make that one item happen. I would tell you, get started. Get started at it. It is, otherwise, you are just going to be on this, you're going to have a rotating door, basically, of people coming and going, because poorly trained people leave you. Either you make the choice or they make the choice. They weren't trained properly, they don't do the job well, and if you hire the right person, they all want to do the job well. We might not see that 2 months down the road. We think, why is that individual, acting that way? Why did they say that to the guest? Take a look in the mirror and go back to training. Were they trained that way? First, ask yourself that question, because you wouldn't bring somebody on that would, exhibit that kind of behavior, right? But it might be us. It might be us. I'm a believer in certifying people to train. Doesn't mean they're certified as wacky or anything like that. It means, look, you've got to exhibit the behavior that we want, and you've got to be able to answer all these questions correctly before I'm going to give you this new associate to train. It's not going to happen. That's called, the big guys, the heavy hitters like the Brinkers of the world and the Applebees of the world and the Fridays of the world. They got this thing down because they knew when they were going to expand, they had to duplicate every process just right. So they did it with, with trainers. Only certain people train, and they're certified, and you have to pass a test to get there. And you don't take shortcuts in training. If a server is trained in 5 days, and a server, for those of you that are entering the world of entertainment centers, a server is quite possibly, after the general manager, might be the most critical job in the entire place. They are going to determine, how much lift you get in revenue. They're going to determine more than anybody else guest satisfaction. And you want to take a shortcut with a server from 5 days to 3 days? You've just, you've sent somebody out that's going to have the most interaction with the guest with insufficient training. So no shortcuts taken. In the long run, I know sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, I just don't have anybody to work, and I just got to get that person out there on the front line. In the long run, you do more damage to the company making that choice. Managers will sometimes, and I'm a manager myself, I've been a manager, we'll sometimes just take this shortcut because the alternative is that we've got to be that server or that bartender or that bowling desk reception person. That, my friends, is the better choice. That's the better choice than taking shortcuts on training. New trainees should get feedback every shift. It sounds obvious, right? But think about your training processes and ask yourself, look, at the end of the shift, is somebody, that certified trainer or a manager, sitting down with this trainee and telling them exactly what went right on their shift and really where they need to improve for the next shift? I'd like to keep it simple in this area, and I call the feedback service, skills, and speed. So we give feedback in those three areas. Service is, it's that hospitality factor. I mean, are they making eye contact with the guest? Are they giving their name if that's part of your service standard? Are they smiling? That's service. That part of it is it's more nebulous than the other. Skills are, the parts of the job that you have to learn. If it's I'm going to put down a bev nap or a coaster and I'm a server, that's a skill. It's done in a certain way. Or I'm making a drink, that's a skill. How I ring things into the point of sale, those are all skills. And then lastly, it's speed, because frankly, it doesn't matter how good you are on a point of sale accuracy-wise. If you can't do it fast, you're going to clog the system up. And if you're a cook and you make a phenomenal burger, but you can only handle one on the grill at a time, it's not going to work out. It's just not. So the last area is speed. And I will share with you this, that speed doesn't typically matter in the first shift or two, right? You look to speed at the fourth or the fifth. Are they picking up speed now? Because we're in a fast-paced environment, right? You can't work slow on a Saturday in an entertainment center. You might be able to do a little slower on a Tuesday, but you can't on Saturday, so speed matters too. So we give feedback every single shift. And we test every single shift too. And the testing is different, and of course it gets harder as the days of training go on. In my own center, I know we made this mistake sometimes where people get on before they know the menu, and that's just like the basics of the business. You got to know everything about the menu. You might not have to recite every single tequila or every single vodka, but you know where to find the cheat sheet that has that. But you've really got to know the food menu inside and out on a server level. In a salesperson, the menu is there is a menu for a salesperson too, but it's my birthday parties, it's my youth group parties, it's my adult packages, and they've got a menu to learn too. And every individual should know that inside and out. That's the basics of our training program. And now, I think you should have managers involved in skilling out. And I call skilling out as that hopefully that last shift that somebody is with you on that shift, and you have to display all the skills, the speed, and the service that you want in that individual before you sign off and say, Mr. Server, Miss Server, you're on your own, and you're coming back tomorrow, and you're going to have 6 lanes on your own. Make sure that they can manage and execute everything that you want. That's a skill out. And I think a manager should be involved in that. You see it a lot. I know I speak to the restaurant business, but let me tell you, if you're in the entertainment center world already, you've got a restaurant. Those of you that are entering it understand you're going into a restaurant. In a restaurant business, very, very common, the skill out of a server is you serve the manager, and they take notes right through it. And if you haven't done that, if you don't even have to do it on a training shift, managers, owners, go down to a lane and have a server wait on you and observe the steps of service, and observe the speed and observe the friendliness and courtesy and everything that you want from them. Give them feedback. Stealing a line from Ken Blanchard, but he said feedback is the breakfast of champions. I don't know if it's ever been said better. I mean, it really is. We'll talk more about feedback in a couple of slides forward. Before I move on, any questions so far? Okay? Anybody? Yes, please. This is only out of training, So I'm talking about when they leave, when they're leaving their training shifts and going out, they're going to be on their own. A manager doing the skill out then. Later on, secret shoppers, I'm a big believer in them. We'll get to that when we talk about measurement. Thank you. Any others? So, this is a great question. The question is, does anybody have any guidelines on how many lanes a server should have? Fantastic question. We all struggle with the answer to this question, but I will tell you this: no 2 servers are created equal, and literally no 2 nights are created equal. So this is a moving target, and I'm not backing away from the question. I'm just telling you that you've got to look at your business on different nights. If you've got some leagues bowling on a night, and let's say those leagues start at, God forbid, 7 o'clock, get me off on a tangent about that. But say they start at 7 o'clock, the odds are that they've already eaten dinner, right? So, you know, I could probably handle a larger, I'm basically a cocktail server at that point. I could handle a larger section on that, likely 8 lanes if I'm a qualified server. Now, let's fast forward to 6 o'clock on Saturday night. It's all casual play, hopefully. We don't have any leagues on Saturday night. Right, entertainment centers? Yeah, we probably don't. So, you know, here we've got a mixture of adults and families, and at 6 o'clock we're probably serving food, I hope, to every single lane. You know, one time as I was doing, I evaluate centers, go in and evaluate them, and went into one of our centers, a Brunswick Zone XL that we've developed several of, and I counted looked for the food on lanes. 36 out of 38 lanes had food on it on a Saturday night. That's the way it should be. So we're in this Saturday night, and I can tell you, you shouldn't have more than six lanes, because what happens is you're not going to get all your money out of their pocket if you stretch that station on Saturday night. Now, a new server with a number of lanes, you're going to notch down from that. And probably start them with 2 lanes, then move to 4, and they might graduate to 6. And it's going to be a while where they would be able to handle 8. So is that good as a guideline? You know, on the restaurant side, if you have a restaurant, you've got to. Frankly, it's easier to do that because everybody that walks into that restaurant is there to eat and drink, and so you can set that station by. It's normally done by the number of seats. So if you've got a 6 top, maybe you're getting a 2 top with that. But lanes, that's a good guideline for lanes. Thanks for asking that question. Okay, so in staff development. We've trained them, we've skilled them out, and then quite often we just let them go. That's the last time that we think about them, managers. So what I'm recommending here as a best practice in an entertainment center is managers observe staff while on shift. It's as easy as this. Rob? Hey, Rob, you know, tonight I'm gonna watch your work tonight, and at the end of the shift, we're going to sit down and I'm going to give you some feedback about your shift. How's that sound? Great. Wouldn't it be good if you worked for people like that? Yeah, because who doesn't want feedback, right? Who has ever had a review from a boss that you got and they wrote all this stuff about you and it wasn't even accurate? Anybody? Maybe I was the only one, right? I doubt it. I doubt it. You too? Was it me? So, I mean, that's a painful experience when you do that. And frankly, you know, quite often we have this tendency to hold all this feedback and we put it in a sack and then we dump it on somebody at review time or appraisal time. And it's just not fair, for one thing, but it's not going to help you get associates working smarter and better for you. So observe them, give them feedback, let them know you're going to do it, and make it balanced, right? You know, don't just hammer them with everything that's wrong, because if they're there and they're working for you, they've got to be doing a lot right, hopefully, right? So balance it. Allow cross-training to lead you to things like promotions, okay, and more money. So it's hard to run these places. For those of you that are thinking about entering it, it's hard to run them if you don't have cross-trained people. Just like a bowling center, it's very similar in that regard. Because Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I might have to have somebody that is a GSR or a lane attendant also be able to handle a game room or run a game of laser tag or run food out of the kitchen even. So when, as you get people cross-trained, you're going to get a lot more efficient, run a lot better productivity, but you want them to feel the reward of that cross-training too. It's good for you, and now it's good for them as well. Make sense? Ensure that your review process includes learning and development, right? Because if you're going to measure it, you can manage it, and you'll get it if you do it. So you make sure that your system includes it. How did you develop? Did you learn a new position? Did you get cross-trained in a new position? Did you take an online course? Did you study something? Did you go to school? So anything like that includes learning and development, put it into your review process. And then consider this, quality circle meetings conducted. Does anybody have any idea what I'm saying here? Do you? You remember? Did you put it in practice? Was it effective? It is very effective. Here, sometimes an example is worth 1,000 words. So, you know, when I was running main events, there were 7 centers. After about a year, I had this idea of bringing together the top associates and just meeting with them and asking them how, you know, what's going on with the business. We didn't call them quality circle meetings. This is kind of an industry name for it. We called them the top 20. And I asked every manager, pick your top 20 associates that are impacting the business. I don't care if they're all 20 from one job area or if they're from 20 different. So I had the top 20. We had about 100 plus associates, so it was about 20%. Brought them into the room. General manager could attend. There was just one rule. What do you think it was for the general manager? You got to be quiet. Yeah, so if you want to be in the room, you just got to tell me you're going to be quiet, okay? Because we're going to ask questions, and we're going to listen. And what do you think we ask? What kind of questions do you ask? Bring together your associates. What do you want to ask? Do you have the tools, right? Do you have the tools to do your job? As a management, ownership, our job is to provide the tools for them to do the job. And if a tool's missing, they're frustrated. Here's another question. And this was, to me, the most effective question to ask staff members when you bring them together. What are the obstacles to us providing outstanding guest service? What are the obstacles? If you haven't asked your staff that question, it's scary the first time. But I have to tell you, you can make immediate changes that make the guest experience better the following day. I'd like to guarantee that 100%. I know it was for me. And it was like dumb stuff, too. Dumb stuff. Some of it could be fixed that very evening. What are the obstacles to us providing outstanding guest service? And what do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? What do we need to start doing? What do you think, by the way, what do you think those 80 people that didn't get invited to that meeting, what do you think they thought? I'll share with you. How do I get into that meeting? That's what they were thinking. How do I get into that meeting? Because, you know, we're humans. We like our opinion heard. And we want to participate. We really do. And so that was their thought. So think about it. Think about it. Do you think employee performance went up? Absolutely went up. Absolutely went up because they wanted to be into that next meeting. So if you're not doing it, I'd start. You might just be amazed at some of the stuff that you hear. And then supervisory managerial development encouraged too. You know, there's a number of top industry people in this room right now, and one of the reasons that, you know, they're at the top of the industry are because they invest in their managers. They send them to schools. They're sitting next to them right now in this room. They bring them here. They invest in them. That's how, you know, that's how they have improved their businesses. Do they run better? Do they run centers that do more in sales and make more money? Yeah, you betcha, they do, because their managers get developed. I like this. You know, this has to do with talent development. I like to talk about a general manager's weekly schedule, the top 5 hours in that week. And here's what I contend that they are. Hour number 1, orientation. I said earlier, general manager or top dude at the center ought to be involved in orientation and get the bond started there. Nobody better to talk about mission and values than the person that formulated them or that buys into them. If you're the general manager, I don't know why you would work at a place where you don't buy into the values, for very long anyway. Hour number 2, schedule approval. There are some things a general manager should not delegate, and I contend that this is one of them. You know, 95% of the problems that we have from an execution standpoint in this business are because of poor scheduling. Either the wrong people are in the right place, or vice versa, or there's not enough people. And you know what? Not enough people cost us more money than too many people. It really does, because you know what, so you're overscheduled by 2 hours. Okay, it's going to cost you $20 at a $10 average rate. But if you're 2 people under, I contend that you could be missing $400 to $500 that night on that shift. You agree? That's how you lose money. And that day's gone forever, right? I screwed up the schedule yesterday. I can never get that money back. It's gone. And it's a lot more than, overscheduling. So, I would not let a general manager off the hook for this. I would say, hey, you know what? You develop your subordinate managers by having them write their own schedules, their department schedules, and now you give them feedback. One day, maybe you'll be a general manager and you'll be looking at department schedules too, but not until that day. Not until that day. Because, look, I'm an owner. I don't want the general manager saying, well, you know what, that's not my schedule. It was George that scheduled that department. Sorry. We hold each other accountable, and this is as all these 5 interviews or points are, they're all very, very important. Final interviews. I don't believe that anybody should enter the business other than the top dude at the place, and usually it's a general manager. And it's kind of the same thing, If you're a general manager and you're saying, well, I let Sherry take care of the hiring, of all the bar and servers people. So it's very easy for you 1 month down the road to say, well, I didn't hire her. She's not performing very well, but Sherry did that. Sorry. Final interviews are yours, and I can tell you from conducting them and working with people conducting them. Before I went to group interviewing and had general managers doing final interviews, they would knock out roughly 15% of the people that their subordinate managers were going to hire. I viewed that as 15% less turnover, because that's immediate turnover if you bring the wrong person in. So they knocked out that number. Final interviews can also be within the group interview process. If you follow that type of process, the GM has to be there then, because they've got to sign off if you're going to make contingent job offers. Final interviews. I'm the gatekeeper. I'm the gatekeeper as a general manager to who comes onto this team. And then hour number 4 is the manager meeting. You can't run these places, in my opinion, without running an effective weekly manager meeting. It's impossible to do. If somebody out there is doing it, please give me your hints, because I know that I've never been able to run these places without an effective weekly manager meeting. And this might be a little bit controversial, but the hour number 4, I like to do the sales meeting separate from the manager meeting. To me, they're different groups. And I like to stay focused on the sales part with the sales team and probably with the kitchen team. But not everybody that would be in a manager meeting, I believe anyway, has to be in a sales meeting. So when it comes to these communication techniques, which we're going to move on to, we'll talk more about the meetings. But getting the right people at the meetings is just key. You just waste time and productivity if you have more than the people that should be there. Conversely, if you don't have the right people there, you're probably going to miss some opportunities. So regular staff, sales and manager meetings, department meetings, there's times that maybe we just need to talk to the game room staff or the kitchen staff or the server staff. I think you should be holding those. I talked earlier about staff one-on-ones, another communication opportunity for giving feedback to staff. Keep it balanced. Something new we're going to talk about now, shift meetings. And I've got a couple of slides particularly on this, because I think this is a big opportunity for folks if you're not doing shift meetings. I'm here to tell you, I think you should be. Another communication technique is the use of a logbook. If there's some that have grown up in the restaurant business, we used to call it the red book. I personally use, and I would recommend, an electronic shift note program that's literally called Shift Notes. But it's a way that the management team communicates from shift to shift and day to day, and records all the important information that we need to communicate with each other to be top operators. So in staff meetings, talked about this, the right staff for the meeting. If you really want to get effective at holding staff meetings, distribute an agenda in advance. You waste a lot less time if you do that. And hey, you know what? Your agenda, or the shell of the agenda, might be the same every week. That's not a bad thing. It just might be that we're going to add on a topic or two or get into a little bit more detail within that category. Hey, you know, your time is valuable. Your manager's time is valuable. And if you think about, I've got 6 people in this manager meeting for 1 hour. You know, how much is that costing you? You got a manager, if you have a manager working for you, so a salaried manager in an entertainment center, if they're not worth $50 an hour minimum, they shouldn't be in that job. It's a strong statement, isn't it? Shouldn't we be able to, as a manager within this business, be able to create $50 worth of value? I like to, in my father's memory, I like to tell this story to everybody that I can possibly get in front of me. At a very early age, my dad, who was a small businessman, shared with me something that I've never lost, and I hope I never lose. He said, as an employee, your job is to make the owner money. Never forget that. And if you don't forget it, you know what? You'll never have to look for a job. You'll never have to look for a job if you remember that. So when I say, you know, you might not be paid $50 an hour, but you should produce $50 an hour for the business, right? And probably more than that if we run a 25% labor cost, right? So I like to break things down into small bites so I can remember them. I like to think people performance preview. That's the kind of the shell for the meetings and how I develop general managers to run meetings. So we're always going to talk about people. We're always hiring in the entertainment world. Always hiring. Always recruiting. So we need to talk about people. So we've got to talk about how many people do I need in this position, how many people do I need in that position, and we're also going to talk about, you know, how our staff is performing as well. And the second P is, you know, our financial performance, which we should be talking about on a regular basis. Our productivity, our sales, etc. And then preview is we're going to look forward. We're looking forward to the next period, the weekend, the next week, for staffing purposes, but also for planning purposes. It's easy to remember, and it seems to work. Refer back to the communication logs at this meeting. You know, we might forget something, so we go back to the communication log and we say, oh, we had a no-call, no-show, so yeah, you know what, we're down 1 staff person in that job, you know, that no-call, no-show. Unless you want to give them 3 or 4 no-call, no-shows, you know, if you want to do that. I would recommend it, though. That was a joke, guys. So refer to the communication logs. So you don't forget the things that happened in the last week. Just like distributing an agenda in advance, if you really want to get effective, take this next step. You know, assign maybe a different manager secretarial duties, take notes, and distribute them. You will develop your managers. You will be more effective. You won't forget things. And when you write it down, it's no longer a wish or a dream. It's now a goal. We've written it down. We've taken it out of the wish category. We've put it in. Here's a goal for our management team we're going to accomplish in the next week. If you haven't done that yet, give it a try. You'll have remarkable success with it. No free passes. What do I mean by that? How could a manager of one of these complicated places come to a weekly meeting and not have anything to report on? How could it be? I've watched it. I won't watch it for long, though. I will not watch it for long, because you're not paying attention if you don't have something to report on. You're just not. So don't give that person a free pass more than once. You know, if they go around and say, "Look, I don't have anything to report for my department," you know, I'd have a little one-on-one session with them afterwards and say, "That's not how this system's going to work, right?" If you're going to manage a department, you're going to share with everybody what's going on in that department. And if you don't observe anything in your department, well, frankly, you're probably not in the right role. And we might have to promote you to guest. That might be the next move. So no free passes. Now, shift meetings. Look, in the restaurant world, they call these pre-shift meetings. I have just lost the word pre. That that part of it and call them shift meetings, because we don't have defined lunch and dinner segments, I think, in our business. So I'm going to run a shift meeting when I've got the bulk of my staff there, and I'm going to bring them together and I'm going to hold them every shift. It's like breathing. It's automatic. If I'm a manager, I know that I'm expected to run a shift meeting, and a good shift meeting too. You just can't over communicate. And you know what? Staff people need reinforcement on critical issues, service issues, menu related issues, new promotions that you're doing. This opportunity will make your center run better. You run shift meetings, I'll tell you, there's no question in my mind. Give me a center that runs shift meetings, same center that doesn't run shift meetings. This one's going to be 20% more effective at everything. Everything, not one thing, everything. They're short. If they're long, drawn out, it's like some of you right now, they're nodding off. No, you're not. You're really paying attention well. I appreciate that. But that's how the staff gets, really. They're like, oh my gosh, another shift meeting. Oh, he's just going to drone on about us not doing our side work, in the last week. Oh. And, if they're one way, if it's a dialogue, it's very different than this monologue. So we're going to play a game called I Say, You Say, right? So, Robin, play. I say, I'd like to order a vodka and cranberry. You say, oh, David, will you play? I say, I'd like to order a vodka and cranberry. You say, awesome, that's it. Yes, thank you, David. And hey, David said, would you like Tito's or Grey Goose? Now notice something. David, he came from outside this business. He has learned quickly and he has learned fully. I got to tell you, David did not say, what vodka would you like? He called them by name. Literally said, Tito's or Grey Goose? Because if somebody, if you ask that question, what vodka would you like? Hey, I might not know vodkas, and then I look a little silly, and then I'm going to say, you know what I'm going to say? Just give me the house. Just give me the house, right? So by doing what David did, he's built that check already. He's built that check. So Tito's or Grey Goose, two high-end ones. So, and it doesn't end there, It's I say, I'd like to have your cheeseburger special today. You say,
great. Would you like fries and a drink with that?
Awesome, man. Thanks for playing. Thanks for playing. That's it, So, you can do that with anything. We've got a new promotion coming up, a new bowling club or league starting. You do the same thing. I say, I don't know how to bowl very well. You say, hey, we've got a bowling 2.0 class starting in 3 weeks, and let me sign you up for that, right? So now look at, you've got everybody engaged, right? And frankly, they can't fall asleep because I could be asking you next, Paul, right? You could be the next one, right? So it's I say, you say, it's participative, and we got a nice dialogue going. They're upbeat and motivational. If you start holding shift meetings and it's all a downer, how can you expect those people to go out with a happy way about them and sell your business? How can you expect that? And, why the heck should you gripe about, if you hear a manager saying, that side work, the servers you guys did a wretched job with side work last week. What if it was only one server and you're talking to 5 servers? How do you feel if you're one of the 4 that did your side work, right? And it was one person that did it. You feel like the boss is unfair. One. Number 2, you think, boss really doesn't know what they're talking about. And number 3, you think, you know exactly who the person was that he's referring to. You're thinking, the boss is a weenie. He doesn't want to talk directly to that server, so he's saying it to the group. The boss is a weenie. Did you have a question, Lisa? No. Okay, great, thanks. So look, you've got to say something negative to somebody. Don't do it in a shift meeting. And always think, it's just human resources 101. You talk to people individually about things that need to be fixed. I would encourage you to run shift contests. Look, the job of a bartender, a reception desk person, a server, it's monotonous. And the shifts can just, they can blend together. Give a shift life by having a little contest. You would, you'll make somebody's day, literally. And it might be, you're going to give them a meal at the end of the shift. Big deal. It's not a big deal to you. At cost, it might be $2, but to them, it's a real big deal. Real big deal. Please, Teresa. Everybody hear that? I hope you did. Okay, so she's buying out of her pocket a meal for people on these shift contests, and just saying in her own words, what a big deal it is to the staff members. I couldn't agree more. Hallelujah, hallelujah. That is well, look, you can learn from anybody. The big deal is doing it. We can sit in here and learn it, but if you don't do it, it's not going to make any more money. But if you run shift contests, you're going to find out that sales go up on that shift. You're going to learn it quickly. You're going to learn it quickly. And I have to share with you a recent one that we did. We're trying to build our electronic and mobile clubs. We call it a me club. There's a connotation of, it's all about me, but it's also mobile electronic. So we run, a contest for me club signups one night. A bartender who had 0 before the contest had over 100 at the end of the night. Not the end of the week, not the end of the month, the end of the night had over 100. Now, what's it worth getting data on a guest? I don't know what, it's hard to figure that out. When I was with Brunswick, we used to say getting data on a desk was worth, and we had people analyzing this, was worth $30 to us per person. It's amazing. We gave her a meal, and we've had it inside of a monthly contest too, that the winner got a $100 Visa gift card at the end of the month, whoever got the most signups. And in that month we had over 1,000 Me Club signups. Did you have a question, ma'am? Thank you. Thank you. Well, look, if you want to, some other tips related to that. Say you're going to move a beer out of the line. Really not move it. You can run a contest on that particular beer. You can run it on, take a mixed drink that you are introducing. You could run it on that mixed drink too. You can pick particular menu items too, and you'll be amazed at what happens. We try to not discount in my center on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, our peak times. But we have featured drinks. So, our servers are trained to say, hey, tonight, our featured drink is a house sangria. And just doing that, running a contest against it, we'll take a drink that we may have sold 1 or 2 and we'll sell 13 at a high price. Yes, Kim? The rewards and contests work. You're hearing some testimony here. I could go on, and after this class, I want to make sure we get through everything. If you'd like to hear more, I've got more. Lots more. And then handling staggered shifters. A lot of people will say, I can't run shift meetings because people all come in at different times. Well, I got news for you. It's that way everywhere. You're not the only one. So a staggered shifter comes in. Here's 2 tips. 1, the manager meets the staggered shifter, tells them about, exactly what they went on in the shift meeting, or and this is effective too, wherever the staff room is, if you're lucky enough to have an employee lounge, you put a board up and you write down the topics on the board, and then the staff person has to come to the manager and say, okay, we're featuring the house sangria tonight, and we've got a new bowling 2.0 starting in 3 weeks, and then our safety item is we're going to make sure that we put that wet floor sign down if we get a spill. That's it. So they come to you and tell you, it's locked in their mind, right? They remember it. So that's another way to handle staggered shifters. 4 goals of shift meetings: improve people, performance, and profits. Sales go up, profits go up with that, and people get more knowledge. They get better at their job. Energize, educate, and focus the staff. There's nothing better in this business than having a really, really fun shift with motivated staff. It is. It's why I've been in this business for over 30 years. It really, really is. It's really a gas. And when you've had it, and it's usually when you've had a really good shift meeting and a contest going on. Coincidentally, develop habitual consistency. You know, they say it takes us 21 times in a row before we make something a habit. So if you want something to be a habit, reinforce that daily, and you can do it. The best way to do it is through shift meetings. Talk to every staff person that way, and then ensure that every guest leaves happy. I mentioned this use of a logbook or shift notes. You know, this can be called a crib sheet. I call it a labor card sheet. At the centers I've advised or managed, we have every staff person listed on a sheet of paper when they come in, when they come out, and managers are to, you know, X them off as they arrive, because nothing's worse than if you've ever been on a Saturday, you know, when you've got 60 or 70 staff people scheduled, and you realize, oh my goodness, 2 party hosts didn't show up, you know, where are they? Anybody ever have that happen to them, or only me? No, you too? Yeah. It's awful, isn't it? So, you know, if you get in this habit of marking everybody down, at least you know the minute they're not there, call them or get a replacement in, right? So, you know, how I train my managers is to use that crib sheet and write shift notes down on it, write things that happen right on that, because they've got to have that piece of paper on them. Or, you know, use a little ring notebook in your pocket and write everything down. You just, look, we'll forget stuff if we don't write it down. And then you transfer from that into a logbook. And just like, you know, as we mentioned, habitual consistency, how long that takes, you've got to get people in the habit of doing this, and you do it by committing to writing at least 3 notes in the logbook every day. Pretty soon people will be writing 4 or 5. So, you know, in a typical shift, if you can't think of 4 or 5 things to write down, it's just kind of like that free pass at the manager meeting. You're really not paying attention, because stuff's happening. Stuff's happening like, hey, it's slow, or, you know, we got hit, we were 1 game room person down for 2 hours, we were overstaffed by servers during the day shift, low on the night shift. All those things are important, because you'll never get your schedule better if you don't communicate the problems that you've got with scheduling. And if you buy what I mentioned earlier, that 95% of your problems are going to be a result of poor staffing, and I really believe that, then you've got to make sure that you don't reproduce those mistakes. For those of us that grew up in the bowling business, this was like the worst thing that could ever happen. If you had a lane breakdown on Tuesday night for the Tuesday night league, if that same thing happened the following week, that is like, it's like putting the L right on your forehead, right? It really is. So, you know, you're reproducing these schedule mistakes is kind of, you know, the L on our forehead. So take that logbook, as I mentioned earlier, and take it to the manager meeting. And then I would tell you, you know, if you really want to get, you know, technologically advanced, just do it electronically. You know, this morning my shift notes report was on my phone when I woke up. It sends automatically at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I could read everything and respond to it. It's the way to go. Use the technology. All right. Managing the guest experience. Got some points here. Do you have service standards buried in the culture? I just have to say, Doug teed me up yesterday, Mr. Lip, because he talked about all those service standards, if you will, just buried, embedded into the culture of Disney. And while you might not be Disney, don't you want to plus up your place? Don't you? Don't you want to move that way? And, you know, but you've got to start with what are the service standards that are in place. And do you have them documented? And service standards are this. You know, Bill Marriott had standards for everything. The guy was you know, OCD about that. He spelled out, you know, 50 steps in a row how to clean a room in 30 minutes or less, you know, when he started his hotel business. And every job in a Marriott has those things embedded into them. And here's what he said. He said, you know, it's only when people have all those service steps in mind that we can free them to provide courteous service and solve guest problems. So those standards, it's not like you're a robot, and I say, Kip, my name is Rick, I'm going to be serving you today. It's not that, but it's once I know that I'm supposed to introduce myself, it's more like, hey Kip, I'm Rick, I'm going to be taking care of you today. Can I start you with a Tito's and tonic, So when you have the standard and it's embedded, then you can allow your personality to blend with that and provide service that's over the top. So, are they in there? Are they in there? One of the service standards that I just love, I learned from the grocery business, and I thought, why didn't I think of this sooner? And it was, whenever I paid for my groceries, I would say, thank you, Mr. Heim, because they're looking at my credit card name. Thank you, Mr. Heim. I appreciate your business today. And I'm like, we could do that in our centers. Everybody's paying with credit card. So yeah, we put it in as a service standard. Ripped off shamelessly from, Tom Thumb grocery store. Why not do that? And there's many more out there. Just think of, there should be service standards in every position that touches the guest. And even touching the guest via telephone. So the sales department should have service standards in there. Events are executed by dedicated staff members. Call them what you will. Banquet captain, event host, party host, whatever it is. But make sure that your group events are conducted by the very best associates you have and dedicated people. It is absolutely worth it to put event hosts on group events. Managers are relationship-oriented and not task-oriented. Somebody that looks at their job as relationship-oriented approaches it completely different than somebody that's task-oriented. So if I'm relationship-oriented and I'm a manager and I'm responsible for a group event, I'm already thinking about, I want this person to be a regular guest, and you act a little bit differently than when the task is, I have got to make sure that this event goes well, and there's no problems with it. Very different, right? You see the difference in that? A relationship oriented, and you know what? It's different in how you approach a casual guest too. Absolutely different. And I always thought this was something that, when it was in hiring positions, and I looked at bowling center managers, and I looked at restaurant center managers, I always thought that, they had just a slightly different skill set surrounding relationships. I thought bowling center managers, in my opinion, were better at long-term relationships. Because they had these people in there for several weeks or, several years, and they were really good at that. And restaurant managers, they were really good at forming a really fast relationship, solid relationship with a number of people. And I thought, well, if I could put those two together, those two relationship orientations, we got the best. We got the best. Long-term and short-term relationships. But the relationship oriented, and if you're the leader of the organization, you set the tone for this. If you focus on just getting the tasks done, they're going to get the buttercups. The buttercups are going to be filled tomorrow morning. But if it's about, hey, make friends with 5 new groups and, tell me what their names are, where they're from, where do they work, where do they worship, then I approach my shift very differently. So it's all, speed of the leader is going to determine that. Service pain points are identified, examined, and eliminated. In the kitchen, you look at, hey, is there a menu item that's just screwing us up? Is this too complicated for us? Is it messing us up and it's making us run 20-minute ticket times whenever that item is ordered? In other areas, it's like, how do I get people out of line? Again, Doug teed me up so well yesterday. Look at what do people not like about service in a bowling-anchored entertainment center? Waiting in line is a pain in the butt. Who likes it? Nobody. How do I get people out of line? You look at your business differently and you think immediately, how can I, rather than have this person stand in line at the bowling counter, can I come out and can I put people on the waiting list from outside so they don't have to wait in line to get on a waiting list? That's just one area. That is an extreme pain point, and I have to tell you, you can solve that problem. You can solve it. You can solve it with technology, you can solve it with people, but the quicker you get people out of line, they're going to the restaurant or the game room and they're spending money too, right? Or it's a win-win. They don't want to be in line. You want them to spend money. That's a pain point, and there's other pain points within your operation. Go back to the quality circle meetings or the top 20 meetings I talked about. Ask your staff what the pain points are. They'll know them. They'll know them better than you. They'll know what the pain points are. But work to eliminate them. And you'll have better guest experience. Judicious, proactive use of manager comps. I'm a big believer in manager comps. And I think they should be used often and proactively. So it isn't like when you comp something off a check, it's because it was a bad experience. That's just a no-brainer. You have to do that. And I believe you should do +1 to that personally. That's my orientation anyway towards that. But I like proactive comps. You've been here. I've noticed you. You've been back a couple of times. Is it a special occasion? Somebody's having a birthday today. You know, we don't have a sign-up saying, you know, tell us if it's your birthday. Or maybe you do. It might be a good idea. But I'd rather ask somebody, is it a special occasion? Yeah, you know what? We were here 3 months ago, and it's daughter's 17th birthday today. Well, dude, you've got an opportunity for a manager comp right there, whatever it is. If it's a sundae, some dessert, or, you know, whatever it might be, game card, whatever it might be. That's a proactive manager comp versus a reactive manager comp. I'll share with you this, you know, this was, you know, any manager that worked for me at Main Event or in other companies would tell you this. They would get in more trouble with me if they had no manager comps listed for a week than if they had $100 in manager comps. I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but I'm like, how can you go through a week running one of these places and not find somebody that has a birthday? How can you do that? Because we're a special occasion place. Entertainment centers are. Buy them a drink. Buy them a dessert. Buy them a game of laser tag. I don't care what it is. Those are all manager comps. And I have to tell you, manager comps used judiciously and proactively build sales. They build relationships. It isn't just about giving something away. It's about, I've recognized you as a frequent guest, or you're a first-time guest. Whatever it is, it will increase sales. Superior focus on turnover. I've surveyed guests. Guests do not like long waits for bowling. We may like it from a money standpoint. It's their number one gripe about bowling entertainment centers. And even more than that, I'll give you this insight. What they really don't like about us is that we suck at, and I apologize for that strong word, we suck at giving the accurate time for a wait. We're just bad at it. You can get really, really good at it if you sell nothing but time bowling. You should be able to get it down to the minute. But take another lesson from the restaurant business. When you go out to a busy place that's on a wait on Saturday night, the host, the well-trained host, tells you it's going to be a 30-minute wait. In the last 4 years, I've not had any restaurant miss the wait time. It's always 20 minutes, 25 minutes, the buzzer goes off. Do you think people are leaving early? That's not it. It's all in how they train to that. So they know, look, it's likely I'm going to have this table available in 20 minutes. I'm going to tell the guests 30 minutes. Because what happens when they buzz me at 20 minutes? Yippee, right? Turn that around. And that's what our guests tell us in the bowling business. Turn it around. You tell them it's an hour wait. And now here's what happens. At 1 hour, every minute, they're looking at their watch, and they're getting more and more PO'd because you've not given them an accurate wait time. There's many of you in this room know there's none of this I'm making up, right? None. So get accurate at it. Focus on lane turnover. Focus on it in laser tag and with attractions. Because when you shrink turnover time, you shrink the wait time. So it's that. It starts with that, and then train to a better description of the wait time. And know this too. Look, if the wait gets to be, from my experience, and I'm on the front lines today, when the wait is 90 minutes, it's no man's land. Call that no man's land. You know, it's 50-50 on they're going to leave or they're going to stay. So I'm just going to complete this point, Bob. So when a wait gets to 90 minutes, I like to do something. It might be, might be a game room card, might be a $5 game room card. If the wait gets to 2 hours, it might be a free game of laser tag. But think about doing something. Have a strategy in place. I can share with you that it does work, but set it as a strategy and a policy too when it gets that way. Yes? Did everybody hear that? So the solution that the military center that Bob manages is we tell them they're number 20 on the wait list. So now they're looking at, okay, I see number 4 is gone, so there's 16 more to go. Great, it's a great point. Again, for those of you that sell time only on those at peak demand time, you should be able to nail this down completely. You should be able to nail it, and then in my opinion, you probably ought to give yourself a 5-minute buffer and over-deliver. Guest segmentation is practice. This is not easy, but I want to give you this because I think it's a best practice, okay? First way that you can segment guests is by having, if you have a private, boutique, VIP area, whatever you call it, you can make that area 21 and up at certain times. That's a way to practice guest segmentation. That's the easiest way to practice it. But if you don't have a private area, there's another way to practice guest segmentation, and here it is. And this is a learned skill, and this is something you've got to coach people at. I see you're a group that it's teenagers. I put you're in one section of the center. The next group that comes in is, it's 2 couples that are 35 years old. They would not prefer to be next to the teens, and they probably would prefer not to be next to a family with kids. They might have kids themselves, but this is their night out. So they're in a different spot. I know it's not perfect. It's not perfect, especially when you're working on a waiting list, but you can practice guest segmentation to a degree. And it's worth embedding that thought into your culture, in my opinion anyway. It just makes people have a better time.
Actually, on that point, though, if you give guests the options, we found they would rather wait to get a lane that they would be more comfortable with.
Did you hear that? That's a great, a great example. He said at his center, the guest, if given an alternative, let's say the only lane is next to the crying baby, they give them the option to wait longer for a lane that's in a different area. That's great. Great service and great guest segmentation too. All right, I'm on my final topic, and I've got 5 minutes, so we got 5 minutes to talk about profit. Actually, we've been talking about profit for this whole session, in my opinion anyway. I actually got 20. So, lane turnover, measured, managed. You can, if you're not measuring lane turnover, you can do it. And what do I mean by that? It's like the time between when a guest leaves and when I put that next group on that lane. What is that time? Coming from a guy that studied it, I can tell you when I studied centers, the group of centers that I looked at was a small batch, 5 centers. We were as bad as 10 minutes on lane turnover. And when we started really, we measured it first, so everybody knew what we were talking about. And then when we started managing it, I can tell you that we got as low as 2 minutes. One of our centers ran at 2 minutes lane turnover time. And it only really matters when you're on a wait, right? But somehow you've got to maximize that revenue on Saturday, right? I like to tell people, for those of you that are entering the entertainment center world, if Saturday didn't exist, there would be no entertainment centers. Just take Saturday's revenue off your P&L. You don't have a center anymore, likely. But what you've got to do is, when Saturday comes, by the way, it's the biggest opportunity to make more money on the day that you take in the most money. It's an anomaly that some people don't get. They say, well, Tuesday's only, I do $2,500 on Tuesday. I have all this lane availability, laser tag availability. Saturdays, I do 25, 30 grand. The Saturday is the opportunity to make more money than the Tuesday because the people are already there. And now it's about how do I build their check? How do I get more throughput in laser tag? How do I turn my lanes over more consistently? A lot of this is communication, and you can't do it without, without boots on the ground. I mean, you've got to get really, really good at pre-bussing lanes. You've got to get good at teamwork on cleaning the lanes. And then, I don't know how you execute this, but I can tell you this. At my center, it's like the minute that lane is cleaned to our standard, we call them GSRs. The GSR calls the bowling desk and says, "Sell lane 22." And that's how quick it is. And then they've got somebody called up. That lane 22 is being sold. And we're going to continue to operate that way because I have this. It's almost crazy of me. I know this, but when I see a dirty table, a lane is a table. When I see it, I seriously start to shake. I really do. It's like the worst thing in the world to me. And I think, if I ever went to a restaurant and sat down at a dirty table, I'd never ever go back to that. And I think about how many times in our business do people go down to a dirty lane. And so it causes me to shake. So like when I'm in our center, the dining room's in the center, and I'll be looking at, a couple of tables have gotten up and left, and I'm just like looking at this table, and I'm like, I seriously do. I just start to shake, So now they all know. Gosh, Rick's crazy. I better go get that table. But it starts with an attitude like that. Seriously, where you say, that's wrong. There's something about that's wrong. Or there's trash laying on there. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but I was into a relatively new bowling center about 6 months ago on a busy time, and they had 16 lanes that were dark. People were on a waiting list, and there was crap all over them. Crap all over them. They were not going to be able to turn those lanes over in less than a half an hour. They just weren't at the rate that they were going. It's painful to see. Yes, Paul.
Did you maybe do that ahead of time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the only way you can do that is cue people up, literally. Because, in an entertainment center we have laser tag in a game room. If somebody's in a laser tag session, you're gone for 12 minutes, right? So, you're going to have to page the next person up, cue them up. There's ways to do that. You're queued up, shoot up, you're ready to go. It's a great question. I don't think that 2 minutes is, it's not achievable for most, but I can tell you what, 5 is absolutely achievable. It's absolutely achievable. Yes, Bob? Everybody hear that? Okay, so he's gathering the information in advance. I can tell you this, I don't know, I've used Conqueror, but it's been a while since I've used it. I know on Vector Plus, you can go to the waiting list and you can put those names in already and then just transfer them from the waiting list, right to their lane, doing that. So great idea. Well, how Bob gathers that is with like a guest check, yeah, basically, yeah. Awesome idea. Again, eliminating a pain point for the folks too. You're coming out and you're taking that information, not making them wait in line to give that. Great example. This is a pretty big profitability lever. It's big enough that I've got 2 slides on it. I call it vertical scheduling practice versus horizontal. This is a really big deal, and I truly could talk for hours about this, and we don't have that much time. But if you've never heard the phrase vertical scheduling versus horizontal scheduling, you should write that down, because there's gold in them thar hills. I'm certain of it. And I'm going to show you how. Venues are scheduled smartly. I'll give maybe the best way that I can give you what I mean by scheduling smartly is give you the dumb ways that venues are scheduled. You can go into many entertainment centers, and if they have laser tag, you can see something like this. Laser tag closed from 12 to 4 for birthday parties. Am I the only one that's seen that sign? Somebody else? Anybody ever seen that? Hey, if you're in here and you're thinking, that's happened at my center, that is not smart scheduling. So you've got to figure this. The average stay for a person in an entertainment center somewhere between 2.5 and 3 hours. If somebody walks in and your laser tag is closed for birthday parties, they're not going to get the chance to play at all. And if it's Saturday afternoon, it's likely those guests are families with people that would like to play and probably play all together. We can educate the old people to learn how fun laser tag is. So that's not scheduled smartly. We do the same thing sometimes we schedule dumb with bowling lanes too. You've got to maximize the profit. You've got to really study how you schedule. And as I said, on this vertical versus horizontal, I've got a couple of slides on it. Guest focuses on length of stay, because the beauty of our business is, as opposed to a traditional center, we have a longer time that casual people stay. Is look, those of you that have children know this. You get a teenager or even a tween, even a 10-year-old, and it's 3 hours. They have to eat. They just have to eat, and that's the beauty of this length of stay is you get the food sale every time, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is because they don't care. They eat all day. On the adult side, if you focus on this length of stay by providing good value, if you will, in your packages, then you're going to get that extra drink sale out of the adults as well. So it's a way that that you can just increase the check average, which obviously increases the profitability. Staff productivity is measured and managed. I use the measurement of dollars per labor hour. And so, the staff gets to understand the language of that. They can understand it a lot more than labor percentage. They say, on Tuesday, I do $30 per hour of labor. On Saturday, I do 55, 60. But that's the way to measure productivity. In my opinion, the best way to measure productivity in this business is, how many dollars am I getting per labor hour. You can do it by area too, or do it by the whole center. And then revenue management principles are followed. That can be a class in and of itself. It's like maximizing my revenue at peak demand times and then judiciously using discounts or packages to spike demand at these other times, day parts or particular days. This is pricing our product is it's not an exact science, but it's something that everybody should get better at every day in this business. And study your business, study others that do it well, and practice these principles. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could just change our price, based on the weather? It's going to be, we know it's raining right now. We could go from $4.99 to $6.99, a game. Well, we can't do that, but we can get close to it by practicing revenue management principles on both sides. Packages are well thought out and consistent. I believe today's consumer, especially in our business, wants to buy packages. It just seems like it's a question that always comes up in the sales department, and it's if you get the right package out there, you'll see the activity. They buy. So thinking those things out and with good revenue management principles, putting them at the right day part, is just going to ratchet up that profitability. So here's these two important slides. And I talk about horizontal scheduling, and here's an example of it. So look, Saturday is a big important day, and so here's our 24-lane center. At 11 o'clock, they've reserved this number of lanes. Half the lanes are reserved. At 1:30. They've reserved, by the way, that's the most popular time for birthday parties. We all know that, right? If we gave the guests a choice, everybody would be at 1 o'clock on Saturday. So here's 1:30. They sold out the entire center. And then at 4 o'clock, they have a couple of lanes sold and then come back at 6:30 and they sold more. What is going to happen right here when guests come in? We're going to be shut down, literally. These are reservations, by the way. So we've done this to ourselves. So the busiest part of, the walk-in business starts on a Saturday. We've now said, we don't have anything to sell right now. And then we come back at 6:30, and hey, I've seen these, okay? So I've seen schedules just like this, and it's somebody that says, hey, everybody wants 1 o'clock for a birthday party. I'm going to sell till I can't sell anymore. This kind of stuff, you talk about destroying your profit, this destroys your profit. Horizontal scheduling destroys profit. It slows everything down in the center. When you're not rotating through venues like bumper cars or laser tag or bowling lanes, and they all matter. And here's a much smarter schedule. And I'm here to tell you, you can manage the business this way. Here's lower demand. We sell more, And as the walk-in business increases, we sell less. So you can do it with your birthday party schedule. If you've got the same number of birthday parties available at 6:30 as you have available at noon, I would tell you, you don't want to do that. I'm being kind, okay? I'm being kind. You don't want to do that. It's going to hurt your profitability. Do you understand this illustration and why this is better for you from a walk-in casual standpoint? As that demand is peaking, we are opening up our availability. Ladies and gentlemen, there is gold on that slide. And that's not just the color of the sold lanes. There's gold in that slide. And you thinking about how can I make these changes in my business to get smarter with my scheduling? And frankly, again, it doesn't matter on Thursday or Friday, yeah, but it really matters on Saturday. And it probably matters on Sunday afternoon at most places too. And when you get to this smart scheduling, I can tell you what, you can see differences like thousands of dollars in a day. Yes, Mark? You know, I learned some of those things from Neil Hupfauer, I have to tell you. We would not sell more than 50% of any area at any time without a general manager approval. So look, if they wanted to sell Tuesday at 3 o'clock, all 28 lanes they could. Don't get me wrong. But that was our standard. You could never sell 50% or more of anything, including laser tag vests. So, I learned it from him. I've augmented it. But I know, I went back to, this is almost embarrassing to say. You think I think some people think, Brunswick just has really great training. They do everything right. I can tell you they do a bunch of things wrong. I became a regional vice president assigned to California. And I went out to California, and within a month I realized we had salespeople selling fundraisers on Saturday night. And they would sell the whole place, fundraiser. And they're really proud of it. They could sell it for like $4,000, and we were paying 10% commission on that and doing it on Saturday night. Never thinking about the fact that we've got to shut the place down, start shutting the place down an hour and a half in advance, and then you just don't turn the faucet back on and 40 lanes of bowlers show up. Within a month, stopped that practice. No more fundraisers on Saturday night, no more fundraisers on Friday night, and Saturday's business, 18 centers in Southern California, $40,000 a week immediately. And we eliminated the commission that we're paying somebody. That was an example of horizontal scheduling, and thanks for giving that testimony, because you have to manage the sales department in these places. The sale that you make on Saturday night is worthless to me, You're just displacing revenue. And so, you've got to build your commission, your incentive plans, all based on selling smartly. I get passionate about this, you can probably tell, right? But it's really, really important. You got salespeople selling Saturday night, 40-lane buyouts. It's like, you better get a lot of money for that. Yes, Paul?
Where'd you go?
Frankly, we did not move them. Most of them went away. But let me tell you the other problem with that, just so you know why it's so bad. Yeah, they bought the whole place out, but what happens if only 100 people show up? There's no F&B revenue there. That's the other bad part of it. Yeah, they paid their $4,000, but I could have had 300 people in there, 200 people on the lanes, 100 people on a waiting list, all buying drinks, buying food, putting money in games. There's some business that's better to walk away from. We all learn that at some point in our careers. There's sometimes you just have to say, you have to walk away from some business, because it'll kill you in the end. It'll kill you. Yes, please.
Just keep 25% of your business.
I'm emphatically saying that. Absolutely. And if you don't, hey, you've got to be pretty confident in your birthday party program to do what I'm saying here, okay? Because if everybody's going to default to 1 o'clock, they might just go to your competitor. But if you're great at birthday parties, you know what? It's no problem to say, hey, 1:30 is sold out. Are you good with 12 o'clock or 10:30? They do the same thing in the restaurant world every day. Yes, Lisa.
It's business.
Yes. Yeah, you'll learn those. You'll go through those pains. Lisa's talking about taking reservations on Friday or Saturday night on no shows. At my business we just started taking online reservations. We waited a year to do it, but it's paid 100%. We take 100%. Yeah. 100%. Every night. If they do an online reservation, it's all paid for. So consider that. And they'll do it. They'll do it. Revenue management. If you've got high demand, you can do what they do. I know Lone Tree in Denver, Colorado, there's a BRC there, ridiculous demand. They charge $20 for the right to have a reservation. Okay, this is my last slide, and we're going to make it on time. Out of stock is a foreign language, okay? You should never be out of anything in this business. No out of stock. Surveys, conduct them for everything and learn from them. Events and casual business. Use a shopping service. Amusement Advantage, which is a BPAA Smart Buy program partner, they will customize one for you. However you want it. So the one that I use, it's right down to every service standard that we have. They're checking that it's implemented. Customized, very customizable. Great to work with. Everything's measured. Ticket times, check averages, turnover, return business from the sales department. You measure it all. You can't manage it if you don't measure it. Checklists are used everywhere. It's just, those are the things that keep you from making mistakes. You knock those things out. It's like doing a line check in the restaurant before dinner time. It'll make for a much better shift if you do that. Everybody knows all the promotions that we have going on. There's no secrets out there. Goals and quotas in place, and results communicated. That's a lot in that last slide. I hope you guys got a thing or two to take back to your centers or think about as you enter this business. It's complicated, it's challenging, and I don't want to underemphasize how much fun it is when it's all working great, because it is. There's nothing better than this business when it's going well, and your leadership and your management is going to make those shifts better. So I wish you all the best of luck, a great Bowl Expo, and God bless you all. Thank you.